Hello, Governor. It's me, Rakasti, the noob from the Ville, and you are back with us on BingeWorthy, part of the Geekish Network. We binge a show to let you know if you should. Now, I am your host again, Rakasti, noob from the Ville, and we have the most wonderful cast that I could possibly think of. First, I'm going to throw to my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Miss Courtney Scott. Say hello to the people.
Hello, hello.
All right, and then I'm going to go to our one of our newer members, but she is not a stranger to this channel whatsoever. Miss Catherine, say hello to the people.
Hello, live from Memphis. I'm trying with my hands, but that didn't
Oh,
work. Okay, I'm gonna stick with
okay,
that.
you know, wop, 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 wop. Okay, anyway. Uh, and we have the OG Sintel. Tell us something.
You already know. Home, silly home. Silly home now. Let's go.
All right, it's good. It's good to have all of you here. Now, if you're an audience member, feel free to communicate with us. Hopefully, you are watching us right now on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, whatever. But feel free to jump in the comments and communicate with us, and we'll try to cover your comments as we're going. Now, today, we're trying to let you know whether you should binge watch Dead Boy Detectives. Now, Dead Boy Detectives is a show on Netflix. It was 8 episodes. Each episode was about an hour each, and the characters are the ghosts of two dead children, and children, late teenagers, Charles Rowland and Edwin Payne, who, rather than enter the afterlife, they would rather stay on Earth to become detectives investigating supernatural crimes. Now, our wonderful, um, technical producer Rodney posts our cast members' ratings for Dead Boy Detectives. Now, Rodney posts the ratings. I want to let you know that we rate the show at the beginning of the podcast, and then after our discussion, we rate it again at the end to see if anyone's had a change of heart based on our discussion. So, Rodney, what did we rate the show? And none of us know what anyone else rated the show. So, how do we rate the show? All right, so we have 2 binge-worthies and 2 full meals. So that is a 4.5, which rounds up to a binge-worthy. Okay, so anyone, and I'm just going to throw it out here. Anyone want to speak about why they gave it the rating that they did?
I mean, I can start.
All right.
So my rating, listen, I didn't really know what to expect. And I didn't even, I think I started watching this before we even said we were gonna do it. And then I was like, okay, let me go ahead and actually like commit to it, because it's on the list now. But whenever it comes to me for like a binge worthy, I first judge it by the fact of like, did I actually binge it? And that is like, I was back to back to back waiting for like each episode. So for me, that was the first telltale sign. And then also, like, I do love the world that Sandman is these characters are originally from. They were from the Sandman comics and or graphic novel. And I've just started reading the Sandman graphic novel, and I haven't gotten just to the part where they're about to come in. So I'm really excited to get to that part in the comic, and I really enjoyed the characters.
Okay. Trey, what about you, sir?
Hey, listen, when it comes to side characters, this is like a legendary show when it comes to side characters. I think the strength of it is that, I mean, not just side characters, let's just talk about just villains. Like some of the more memorable ones that I've seen in quite some time is, and that's not to take away from our 2 main characters. They've done a very good job. It's solid. I'd say it's a good B plus. But when compared to everybody else, it's just they're not even in the same ballpark. That's how good the other side characters are. And then there's Crystal Palace, who is also one of the main characters as well, who gives an okay performance. She's not bad. Let me be clear. She's not bad, not by a long shot. But when compared to like the Cat King and compared to Esther, compared to the tragedy of the Walrus Man, I forgot his name.
Mick.
Mick, yeah. And then of course the toxic boyfriend that's been haunting Crystal. Like
David.
those performances are the reason why I gave it a full meal instead of a binge out, because in order for me to get a binge out, I would have needed everybody to hit the cylinders all at the same time. That is by no means saying that this is not a phenomenal show. It's just that small thing, and it's just small enough that I made my score low enough so that I can be convinced for it to be more binge-worthy when compared to its other predecessor, Sandman, which to me was a 10 out of 10. It was incredible. It's not that, but it's just a hair underneath it.
Okay. All right. Catherine?
I gave it I guess what was it meal, not a
Neil
binge worthy.
Gaiman?
Full meal.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. The full meal. Just because like I enjoyed it, I was entertained, but I wasn't blown away per se. I did like the
Mhm.
characters, I had fun with the characters. I just felt like it's definitely a tonal shift from Salmon, which look, I was not expecting it to. I guess I forgot, like, or wasn't aware when I initially watched it that was connected to Salmon until like, oh, Death's in this, and I rewatched Salmon, I think after watching this. But I think there's just more of like it has more of like a kind of YA kind of CW vibe to it, not only
Mhm.
just in some of the character behaviors, but also visually, which is both like I think for me there's some positives, but there's also some slight negatives, just color palette wise and just visually. Um, but it's more of like an entertaining thing. And it's not something I would like. I would definitely rewatch and have fun with it. And there were some strong episodes that kind of got into like darker elements, but I think that's why I didn't put it at like a binge out. It's not like the most amazing show I've seen in my life. But still a lot of fun. I do also like the tonal shift from like the comics. The comics are a bit much darker than this, but I do think like going this route for a TV show and getting like in for a different audience, I think was a pretty good route. Um, but yeah, that was a long-winded explanation, but yes.
Okay. And for me, I think I always the quality of the villains. Um, my rating was based on how enthusiastic would I be about telling other people about this show. It is a walk off the beaten path. It's not even a show that I would normally watch. It's kind of like in the realm of Supernatural. I heard Supernatural was good, but I didn't watch it because it kind of, skirted the border of creepy horror to supernatural paranormal. So I just like, heard it was a great show. I've never seen it. Um, but this, I thought again, to Trey's point, I thought the villains were outstanding. They probably outshined the main characters. However, I did really enjoy the main characters, and I think the strength of the show is I was thinking about it in terms of other things that I watch. So I think Star Trek has done an excellent job of building out their universe. When they did stuff like Lower Decks and Prodigies to build out the universe and do spin-off shows that are not necessarily attached to the main characters, I thought that was fantastic. Strange New Worlds and stuff like that. Um, but to come off of the Sandman universe, so you had a very solid TV show in Lucifer. You had the Sandman show that was on Netflix that was freaking outstanding. And then this, and like I didn't see their previous when they showed up on Doom Patrol. But this I thought was pretty solid too. And to be building into the Universal Sandman, I thought that this was something that I would tell other people about. So that's why I went kind of high. But I'm looking forward to our discussion. Now, now there are some people that have never read, like we just heard Courtney bring up the graphic novels. And I was very aware of the graphic novels. I've read like one of the Sandman graphic novels, but I haven't read, I'm not completely versed in that universe. Even though I love Neil Gaiman as a writer. Um, but there's some people that had no idea this came from graphic novels or comics, and had not read them. Do you think that to get a full understanding of this world, did they really need to read the comics? Like, would that have changed or shifted how they view the comics? Catherine, I'm going to start with you.
So I actually have not read the comics, but I watched a video explaining the comics and some of the panels. But I like to do that when I watch after I watch a show.
Mhm.
But no, I don't think you need to read the graphic novels. I think if you watch, I think it's good to either watch this and go back and watch Salmon or watch Salmon first to kind of like, even though they're very different shows, I think it will help you kind of understand like the general universe. But again, these are two distinctive, tonally different shows, but they do reference Sandman stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Trey or Courtney?
I don't think that you needed to read the comics. I think that the creators did a really good job of explaining who your protagonists are, what they're fighting, why they're fighting it, and the arc of the story. I thought the characters stood alone, and yet it was still connected enough that, you know, you started the series with establishing the connection to the Sandman world with death, you know, and then they solidified it with another one of the endless ooh, what's her name? Despair.
Yeah.
Despair.
You know, so there were other members of the world connected to it, but you didn't need to know who they were outside of this is death, this is who they are running from, and this is someone who he met in the world within his nightmare of hell, of the hell realm that he was sent, that was it Edwin? I think it was Edwin. Yeah, Edwin was sent to. And that was not a positive place for him, person for him to connect to, you know, like owing that person is going to be a negative it's going to be probably a really bad thing. But I think that the exciting thing about this world that the creators did was really kind of establish a connection between the audience and the characters. Like they built them up in a way that I was rooting for them and that I cared about their success or failure. So I think that to me was more important than maybe their origin story.
Okay.
I mean, origin in terms of the connection to the comic, to the graphic novel.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to bring up that we have Mark is in the chat. So thank you again for showing up, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Mark
Hey,
said,
Mark.
Hello.
Mark said kind of what you said, Courtney, that he actually binged this one at all. And now that I think about it, I binged this too. Like I just, after one episode went off, I was like, okay, I have to keep going to figure out where this is going. So I binged it, but I think it was late and I fell asleep, so I had to finish it on the second day. So Trey, you alluded to this a little bit in the beginning, but let's talk about, because you know you and Courtney here are our famous thespians. Let's talk about acting. What did you think about the performances? And I guess since you talked about it a little bit, let's backtrack. Let's start with our main characters, with Edwin and Charles, before you get into the villains and the other characters.
Okay. Yeah. I feel that. Let me eat the main course before we get to the dessert. And the main course are our central characters. They are very good. Let's just call it straight up. There's something that's very endearing about the relationship between Edwin and Charles, that you can feel that friendship. And then you add to the mix that, you know, it's a will he, won't he kind of thing, with how Edwin feels about how Charles goes. And they don't really beat you over the head with it. They do a really good job of having it grow like really organically. Crystal, who I think is doing a very good job, it's just she's just around some really stellar talent, and she doesn't really get a chance to shine in the same way as everybody else is. I liked her performance. Let me be crystal clear. I did. But she was just with some
Crystal
heavy
clear.
hitters. Yeah, she's so I did that right.
Pun intended.
Now the two lesser of our good guy characters that we have, the butcher lady, Jenny, I think that's her name. Yeah, Jenny, I think it's butcher lady, and Nico. I think Nico was just a light. She was just so much fun, especially when she's interacting she's like in a whole different universe all to herself. And it's a manga anime based cultural different kind of universe. And she's very comfortable in there. And we are actually being brought into her world in a lot of ways as we watch her kind of like stumble into ours. That actress just did such a really good job. And then Jenny, I did want a little bit more from her because there's a lot of potential, but there just wasn't enough screen time for her. So unfortunately for her in that section. But if we get into the villains, well, let me tell you a little something about this little witch I know. Yo, Esther Finch. This actress, I forgot. I'm going to IMDb. Jen Lyon, who plays Esther Finch, steals the show from the time she first walks up in the first episode all the way into the very last episode when she may or may not get her just desserts. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And just when you think that you can't get enough of just pizzazz and attitude to go along with your villain, comes the Cat King. This dude, it's hard to even describe his swagger and his confidence and just this, I don't know, it's this thing that it's very cat-like. I guess that's the best way to kind of describe it. And then add to the fact that he's using his power in a seductive way on top of it. And the way that he forces other characters, Edwin to be specific, to kind of like bend to their acting prowess. I guess that's the best way to kind of describe it. I feel like Edwin really had to step up. The actor that played Edwin really had to step up when interacting with the Cat King. And I think Charles and Edwin both had to step up when interacting with Esther Finch. It was just iron sharpens irons. And these villains really did a good job of making everybody else step up to the cause. And that's also including the demon boy that's haunting Crystal as well. Crystal Crystal really shined when he was around because she had to step up and show us just how messed up the situation is. And by the time you get done with a few scenes with them, you get it. It's obvious.
Okay. Courtney?
I agree with everything that Trey said. In terms of acting, I would throw in let me go backwards to the protagonist. I really loved the relationship between Edwin and Charles. I think one of my favorite episodes was when you get Charles's backstory and how Edwin stayed with him and how, it really forged their connection, and the loyalty that they had to each other and just the determination. Like even when Crystal joined the crew, there was no break per se. It wasn't like she was coming in between them. They literally just forged their own family, even however hard it was. And for Edwin to be comfortable allowing Crystal, a human, or not even human, like a living being, to be part of their crew, it was fun to watch them build that connection. I loved Jenny's character, and I absolutely adored Nico. And I love the fact that Nico was not in the comic. Like they created her for this series.
Oh,
yeah, okay. She was not in the comic. She was a brand new addition. And I thought she was wonderful. She absolutely fit in the world. She was just different enough that she brought a new energy and rounded out the team of detectives. I love Tragic Mick. Even though you only got him like the Walrus, you only got him for a short amount of time. He was a great recurring character. And the night nurse. The night nurse for me was like a brutal, like all kinds of wrong Mary Poppins. She was Mary Poppins' evil cousin, and I loved it. But she wasn't evil. She was really just determined. I have efficient. A plan, and they're messing up my quota. And like her, just everything that she said, everything was very just, it's here. What are you doing? You're in my way. You're going to get off my list. Like everything was so pronounced and perfect. You just love, she ate. Okay. Every time she was on screen, she ate. And I could not get enough of her. And the fact that we're going to get more of her whenever this next season drops is making me so happy, because I can't wait for her to just be just angry until she finally like forges a connection with the team per se, So I thought that, gosh, Esther got on my nerves from time to time. I did like her. I liked what she brought. I liked that she never gave up. I liked that she was an equal foil to them. Like there was no weakness. I think I was supposed to be annoyed by her. Like, so she did her job as an artist that I was like ready for her to be done. I was like, if somebody don't come on and in her drop a house on her, I'm ready. You know, I thought the Cat King was just delicious. He was so charming, and I really hope that they find a way to incorporate his character into next season. You know, overall, I just think that it was a great ensemble cast. Even the guest artists, the guest actors that came in, everybody kind of like just nailed it, and that's contributed to me and my watching experience. So yeah,
Okay.
acting was definitely on point.
Yeah,
Can
Trey.
I add this one thing? Yo, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Yo, them damn dandelion sprites, and I'm gonna just say that.
Oh yes.
Oh,
Oh my god, I forgot about them. They were
I'm
everything. They were everything. Like when they were slaying and attacking, like I couldn't even wait for them.
Yeah,
Oh
their
my god.
rudeness was epic.
Mm.
Um, what did you guys think about the pacing of the show? I mean, for 8 episodes, I felt like we got a lot in 8 episodes. And really some of the episodes where they gave us backstory on not only Edwin but on Charles were just phenomenal. What did you guys think about the pacing of the show? I'm gonna start with you, Catherine.
it's been a minute since I've watched it, but like, I felt like it was a good chunk of episodes. Like 8, I think is a good number. I think
Mm-hmm.
any more or any less would have just not been sufficient. But for me, I felt it was, I just binged it and enjoyed like the nice even pace. That's sorry, it's very brief explanation, but yeah. Um,
Yeah, I thought, and I think you're right. I think if they gave us more episodes, they would have stretched it out for no reason. And I think if
mhm.
they gave us less, we would have missed a few things. In particular, I did think that the back half was stronger than the front half.
Yeah,
Um, because I think in that front half, while we're getting to know our characters and see and figure out kind of their little idiosyncrasies,
Idiosyncrasies.
hmm
um, I think for one, the bright spot in all of that was Esther, the Cat King, and David the Demon. Like the villains really showed up in the that first half. More so our protagonists, our main characters really didn't show up until that second half, and we started to figure out who they were. Um, I think when Edwin became a little bit more accepting of Crystal, and Crystal started to kind of accept who she was and what she was doing, and stop being so damn manic all the
yeah,
time. I think she became stronger and made them a little bit stronger. You know, it's funny. You guys said something about the relationship between Edwin and Charles, which for whatever reason, to me, it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, like, you know, that type of friendship, very Samwise Gamgee's, you know. And I guess, you know, the twist for 2024 is that, of course, it's more that Edwin is thinking more romantic, you know, than what it was in Lord of the Rings. But
I
I
don't know. I
love,
think Frodo was a little bit in love with Sam. I think is
mm,
exactly the same.
that. I mean, and of course, you know, people have shipped them forever or whatever. Like, I mean, I see that, but I didn't see that when I was watching the movies. I was just like, yeah, people like that don't exist. Like, ain't nobody got
and
no a ride or
Frodo
die true friend like that. Like, where did they get them at?
Frodo got on my
Um,
nerves too much, so I just didn't even think about any of that.
yeah, he was
So,
corrupted by the ring.
yeah,
Samwise, he was too ride or die.
he carried the
Uh,
whole team.
yeah.
Literally
Um,
carried him, like literally.
hmm
Well, I
I
mean,
loved
he literally did.
I loved
Um,
how Edwin struggled with really kind of realizing and even putting words to it to articulate that he was gay. Like, because when he died, that was not acceptable whatsoever. So, you know, him, even though he's dead, been dead over 100 years, you know, for him to still not be in line with, you know, I mean, I guess he did spend 70 years in hell, so, you know, um but for him to not be in line with what's happening socially, culturally right now, was, I thought, was kind of endearing, that he took him a while to figure out, like where he was completely thrown off by the Cat King coming on to him. He's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, I don't do that. Like, so I thought that was kind of great. And I guess
think.
let's.
Oh, can
I
I
mean,
say something
well,
about the pacing?
yeah.
I kind of like piggybacking off what you were saying a little bit, but in terms of pacing, I thought the beauty of the first half was Edwin's um unwillingness to understand himself, not even accept himself, but to understand himself. And that because that time he spent in hell, it really was about Edwin learning to open up his personal borders to accept people. Because even when it got to the point where you saw Edwin's and Charles's relation, how it began, Edwin was ready to leave. He was like, okay, great. So now I've ushered you in and I'm a dip. But because he just didn't know how to be with people. So he figured out how to accept Charles. But in those 30 years, he hadn't had to deal with anybody else other than Charles. So that first half of the season, the pacing is almost like we were going along with Edwin at his pace and learning how to adapt to the world around him, this new world that he was building with Crystal, and then also allowing Nico to come in. Because as it progressed on through the season, you started to see it was less and less about him being quote unquote kind of like jealous of the relationship with Charles and Crystal building, and it became more about him understanding that he could have a friend too. And he and Nico's, their relationships and their scenes together, they were wonderful. I really liked seeing them because they matched just enough. They were just different enough that they equaled each other. And that's when the pacing started to pick up, because I felt that that's when Edwin, who really, in my opinion, we were really kind of following him along. He was the number one lead. We were following him
Yeah,
and his journey, because from the
absolutely.
beginning, it was like his fear of death, his fear of being sent back to hell. And Charles was, he was definitely their dead boy detectives together, but also we're following Edwin's progression of understanding, and through the guise of a thriller and a mystery. So it kind of was like this better, edgier version of Scooby-Doo as it continued to go on, because as mysteries go, like their formula was spot on. And every single case was wrapped up, by from like beginning to end, or connected to the next piece. And then you had like your main through line that had to be finished together. So I thought that the pacing actually worked, given the story that they were trying to tell.
Scooby-Doo actually makes a reference in the show, so I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So
What now?
Yes, they mentioned Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that lady.
Okay.
I'm bad with names. She
Yeah,
watches
Jenny.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So we're talking about Edwin, so let's talk about Charles, because I think you're right. I think that the lead character was Edwin, and like the entire reason that they're stuck in, somewhere outside of Seattle or Portland or wherever they're at, they're not in London, was because of Edwin and the Cat King. So we kind of follow Edwin's arc all the way through. But let's talk about Charles, because I agree with you, Courtney. I thought that Charles was the plus and Edwin was the minus as far as, personality wise, but together they equaled, like they balanced each other out and they made for the perfect little team. So it was interesting to see how they added to that team. And I did like Jenny and Nico. Did you guys know that Jenny is Brianna Cuoco, is Kaylee Cuoco's it's her younger
That's her
sister?
sister.
Yeah. I didn't know that until I was looking at this. I was like, really interesting. But Charles, they did so much with Edwin, and I think it was kind of a small disservice. Like I didn't really see that what we should have got out of Charles. Until they had the episode where he was kind of traumatized, thinking back about his father abusing him, and that whole that loop, Groundhog's Day and the serial killer's house. Um, and then the other part where it showed him transitioning over and Edwin kind of taking care of him, like even to the point where Edwin never told him that he was dead. You know, he
Or
said, "Well, I
dying.
knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said I knew that once you could see me, yeah, it was a wrap at that point." So you know, but he never even woke him up. You know, just let him die and be like, you know, well, you good now. You know, death gonna come for you. I'm gonna piece you out. You know, or whatever. And he's like, well, I don't want to go. And I thought that was super super interesting. I think y'all said earlier too, like I like the callbacks of death and despair. I just think they should have got maybe, I mean, it's not their story. They should have got a little bit more screen time so we kind of understood them a little bit more. But what do we think about Charles? We talked about Edwin. What do we think about Charles? I'm gonna start with you, Trey.
Oh man, I think you nailed about everything I was gonna say. I don't know how much more I can add to it. Let me see. I'll say okay. Let me just speak from the beautiful thing about art is that if you can connect emotionally or it makes you think, then it's doing its job, right? That moment when he was in the house and he's pining in it and he's stuck in the loop, and I think the loop is really important, you know, story wise, because I think many of us get ourselves stuck in loops of tormenting ourselves or not forgiving yourselves or not being able to move on or living in the past, whatever that thing is. And to see him physically go through that, I thought that was a pretty poignant piece of storytelling. We still don't know. We have a very good idea of what went down in his household. He was beaten with his father. You know, we saw him when he was coming down the stairs, and then he kind of like stopped before it got like really bad. But I feel like if they are going to have a second season, I feel like we're going to spend a lot more time jumping into his side of the story now that
Mm-hmm.
you know we've got a really good firm idea of what's going on with Edwin. I'm guessing it's really going to be about Charles and more particularly about Crystal, and as she unveils more of her thoughts. We'll talk about Crystal at a later time. So I'm more looking forward to seeing what we get in the next episodes now that we kind of like have a setup. But for like you said, I don't think he got the same amount of same type of screen time that Edwin got to really deep dive. So it just leaves a lot to you know to be looking forward to.
Okay. Now this time I'm gonna start with Catherine, but I know everyone's gonna want to chime in on this one. So we had a lot of different episodes that may have stood out for one reason or another. To me, I think probably the most standout episode, and there's a lot of them that you could say, was Edwin being pulled back to hell and Charles deciding to go to hell to rescue him. To see him kind of work backwards from the map to trace Edwin's steps on how he escaped from hell to get to Edwin. So him, what he saw going in, and then what he had to endure trying to get back out. Like that was a whole different level of traumatizing, and it was visceral to me because it was like we've seen a lot of depictions of hell and suffering and torture. That was different to me, and it was almost super traumatizing because if you think about these type of things like going through that for eternity, oh hell no. Like I almost went to church when I got through watching the episode. I was like, you know what, let me get 3 Hail Marys and let me get some anointing oil and you know whatever else is on sale in the church bookshop. What
Yeah, the doll.
ah
Dolls.
And I'm someone who loves to collect dolls, and I
mm,
couldn't look at
nah.
my dolls right away.
Well, luckily I have a house mostly full of boys, so no dolls in here. Like, nope. After Chucky came to life, nope, no dolls. Chucky, Abigail, Annabelle, I don't care who that.
Or
Nope,
the
no
Sid
dolls.
doll, the Sid doll with the spiders,
Yeah,
spider
yeah.
legs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've never seen Annabelle for that exact reason. Haven't seen Abigail.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any scary movie. I'm not gonna lie. Like I stopped watching them after The Ring.
Hmm.
Just recently, a friend of
Yeah.
mine got me to watch Smile on just for his show.
Mm.
So I was like, So this was
Yeah.
that kind of scared me a little bit.
Mm, So were there any episodes or any particular parts of episodes that really stood out to you and spoke to you visually, emotionally, what have you?
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. Mine is maybe necessarily because of the strength of the story of the story of the episode, but because of these characters that were actually brought in, I knew I was going to be in for a very good ride for the rest of the show. I loved the pilot. The pilot was great, but when we got to the second episode and it was the case of the Dandelion Shrine, and we got a chance to actually talk to the Dandelions stole the show for the whole series from me. Them two, I could literally watch a show of just those two, just them two, and it set a different tone. Like it was already a little, it's very YA, but to hear their potty mouths. It was just like, okay, all right, we're gonna really have a whole lot of fun. We're gonna be talking about death and the afterworld and all this other stuff. But please, please, please give me more of that. That they probably stood out more than that episode stood out more because of them by themselves than any other episode for me.
Okay. Yeah, because they were a contrast of like what the happiness and joy and the admiration that people were getting, that Nico was getting, when people were around her. So to see them as these like nasty, ugly people that they actually were was just hilarious.
Yeah, they were like on roast mode all the time. Like they just
everything. Like I mean, oh, you're so I just can't. I guess for me, and we've talked about it, is the Devlin house. The Devlin house, the loop, because that for me, it showed the vulnerability of each and every one of them in their own way. And it was the first opportunity that you saw the spark between Crystal and Edwin really solidify, because they only had each other. Because once Charles slipped into the loop and became part of it, they literally had to figure out how to work together, how to trust each other in order to get the one person that they both cared about out of the loop before it ended, before the house was demolished.
On top of the fact that Edwin didn't understand, like he wasn't around, he didn't know modern technology. He had to rely on Crystal. He had no idea.
Except then she vanished, and like because David came in and jumped in her head, and so he's left with the VCR, like you know what I mean? So there were so many moments of like that our heroes were in danger and other than the actual danger of the house and the violence that just kept happening on a loop. And it was so disturbing for me. Like it was just so like to see people just stuck in that rage,
You're reliving trauma.
I was like literally reliving it. And those poor spirits that couldn't get out of it, and it was just such a powerful episode for me. And
on top of the fact that once you thought that they had kind of fixed the loop, and then that wraith little demon thing came out of the corner, I was like, are you for real? Like,
right? There were so many obstacles for them to overcome. It was just such a really powerful episode that was honestly like the challenge. It was like the ultimate escape room. And I love escape rooms. I absolutely love them. So for them to be trapped in this house, two spirits trapped in a house and watching these people, knowing that they really have to figure it out. And then what it was at the end, it was about the daughter's acceptance letter to college. It was none of the things that they thought it was. None of the things. That was the ultimate mystery for me. I really, really, because I'm a mystery buff. Like I love Sherlock Holmes. Love all the, Agatha Christie and all that jazz. So like that was the best mystery of the season for me.
Yeah, I also agree. Like that one was my favorite episode. Just like the reliving trauma part, commentary on the characters. I think also just like how kind of dark it was. Not like just dark for the sake of dark, but I just think it just had a lot of layers. I like to call it the blockbuster episode because I can't remember the name of the episode, but just a really powerful episode. I'm just dittoing a lot of what you said, Courtney, and like that stood out to me like out of I think all the rest of the episodes. I think the Hell episode's good. I just think this one just touches on like just more of the layers of the characters and just like the challenges and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this visually, it's visually color palette wise just great and just visually well done. I do feel like some of the episodes, especially with like some of the characters and creatures, you can tell where the budget is just like really low, like the mushroom
Mm-hmm.
character, but this one was just kind of right.
Yeah, can I add something to that a little bit? I think that's one of my things that kind of like separates this from Sandman. You could tell that there was a different budget. You could tell that a lot of things had to be rushed. The thing that made Sandman really stand out to me was just how beautiful it was. The worlds were absolutely exotic, and they really had time to breathe. Where this, the pacing was so fast. You know, you get in, you get out. Even when we went into Hell, it was like a fast paced kind of thing. You know, we're trying to get in, we're trying to get out, and I'm sure there's some budgetary kind of constraints to go with it. But when compared to like Sandman, when you touch down in that world, you're there for a second to kind of like soak it all up.
Well, you know, and the thing about Sandman, I was accepting of the difference, mainly because it was two different planes of existence. When you're in Sandman, the Sandman and all the characters in that pretty much are ethereal type of characters. So it's almost like you're in the Matrix. So everything that happens in the Matrix is fantastical. Where when you get out into the real world and they unplugged in a little ship trying to get away from the little squid things, it's like, yeah, like, go back into the Matrix, fight the agents and shit. I want to see that. You know, like it was a completely different thing. And Dead Boy Detectives was rooted in the real world. Like even though there were spirits and stuff like that, it was still, you know, dealing with Crystal and Nico and Jenny and all that. It was still rooted in the real world. And so that's why I was kind of more accepting because, you know, dealing with Sandman, like even if you look at the world of Lucifer, I mean, he's the freaking devil, but he's in the real world. So it had more of a feel almost like you know, Dead Boy Detectives more than Sandman. Sandman was on a whole different fantasy type of thing that's hard to even imagine outside of what they did with it. I love you guys' examples. I think the thing that stands out to me was the relationship between Crystal and David the Demon. Um, like the first time he really showed up, like, and I don't know, and I guess maybe that's more of a personal thing. Like as far as scene wise, like that Devlin house is over the top fantastic as an episode. Um, the just the vision of hell that they showed is something I've never seen before, and I thought that was fantastic. But on a personal level, that whole relationship between Crystal and the demon, like getting to that type of despair, that type of depression, where she allowed the demon to come into her. It's not like he didn't take her over by force. She allowed it. And she was so unhappy with her parents, so unhappy with her life, so unhappy with everything, you know, that she allowed him in and then allowed him to steal her memories, whatever, because she didn't want to remember the nasty ass person that she was before. So that little mystery of her trying to find herself again and figure out who the new her was actually kind of really, you know, and I think Trey, you said it, like Crystal had to step up because David was so over the top. Like every scene she was in with him, she had to step up to match him. And I don't think she ever really did. And the only time where she kind of owned her stuff and found her ancestors at the end was the only time that she kind of got close to his level. But, you know, I thought he owned that. And that was really a scary thought to think, you know, however you feel about that type of stuff in the real world, like she allowed a demon in her, that was different for me. So
She's fighting her demons,
yeah, but you know,
literally.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's one thing when that's not figurative, that's literal.
yeah,
Is in
yeah.
a very toxic relationship. Like it didn't get more toxic than that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much the king of toxicity.
Yeah.
I,
How did you all
I
feel?
will
Let me ask-
say, oh, go ahead.
I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
how did you all? There was a moment in that when she met the spirit tree. Well, we had those weird looking eyes, and then she hopped in the eyes and went into a deeper part of her spiritual ancestry, and she had the tree, and she got a chance to meet some of her elders that kind of held the power and stuff. I was just curious how you all felt about that.
It's very Black Panther, but sorry, like it's not a bad thing. I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism with trees and ancestry and colors and stuff, but it was interesting. Curious how they're gonna dive into it more, but it wasn't like a standout moment for me. Um, it's just like I guess because I've seen it a lot before. I'm like, okay, cool. Her ancestors, the power of her past, and coming together, kumbaya. But sorry.
Yeah, it did give me the end of Color Purple, the musical feeling. When they were at the I don't know if anybody has seen the Color Purple, the musical, other than me. But the scene when they were at the dinner table, all everybody surrounded in their white and enjoying the, like the camaraderie. So it didn't move me. Like I thought that was the only part that I felt was a little contrived per se.
Okay.
Because I thought it was an easy out. Basic kind of Black girl out where you bring on her female ancestors, and this is an explanation of her abilities. Okay.
We saw that with
But
Echo.
I think the only element that is of interest to me is that she buried her demon under her tree, which is the foundation and root of her power. That's the only thing that is of interest, because he's literally going to corrode you from your core.
Mhm.
So that could be something that, quote unquote, is an epic journey in season 2. So I'm interested for that, but that is the only reason why I am interested in that. That was just my opinion. But
Yeah, and
I
and
mean,
they
what did
told
you
her that.
what did
Well,
you
yeah, and
think?
they told her that she couldn't leave him there because it would corrode her tree. I
Yeah,
think
but she's
I,
a
I
Gen Z and she wasn't listening.
yeah, I actually agree with you that was problematic for me. Only in That's a writer's room thing. I don't know if it's Neil Gaiman, like especially when you're dealing with people of color and you're into this fantastical paranormal world. So they're like, you know what, we're gonna pull on the Orishas and all that type of stuff. It reminded me of American Gods, but because he did no research on it, he's like, oh well, they're they're pulling this power, this ancient power from the motherland, and but they don't understand it. No, you didn't understand it, so you just kind of wrote it in there, but gave zero explanation of it. And it's kind of lazy to me.
Yeah, and I
I
think
would I
I'm
would like
not
to
sure. It
yeah.
wasn't in this. It wasn't in the book. This is something they added
Oh.
for the series,
Mm.
and I just wanted to confirm that I
Oh,
read
I
it
like that even
before
less.
somewhere.
Like,
Yeah, that's
But
somehow worse.
yeah,
yeah, I don't.
yeah, I don't think that. I think I read it somewhere that her tree, her ancestors, and all that was added for this show.
All right, so
Yeah,
the reason I brought it up is because geek Twitter was going ham, like black geek Twitter was kind of going ham on that moment, saying the same thing, like is it's like is T'Challa supposed to be like walking around the
Right.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, well, let me ask some other people because I know, like I said, black geek Twitter was not happy. I'll just say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
like if
thought that.
you no, go ahead. Like, I was gonna say if you write stuff in there, you got to know what you're doing or have somebody in the writer's room that knows what they're doing. Like the way that they wrote what is his name? Orlando. I can't even think of his name, but the guy who played Quincy in American Gods, like the
Oh,
way
you talking about
that he
Orlando? Oh shit, now I can't think of
Is
his
it
name.
Lando
Jones?
Jones.
Yes,
Jones, yes.
Yeah.
The way that he played was
Anansi, he played
phenomenal.
Anansi.
Yes, the
Yeah.
way that he did, just like he ate and left no crumbs every time he came on the screen, and I was just like, that cannot be the same guy that was in, what was that movie with Eddie Griffin, a double, something like that. Like he's been in so many just terrible
Drumline.
movies. Yeah, like Well, he was actually decent in Drumline, but I mean, he's like when he was doing more comedic stuff, like
Oh,
it was
like an
just like
evolution
I was
and
like,
all
yeah, I
that.
was like, is that the same actor? Because he was acting, and he was killing it. Uh, but that had far more thought going into it, in American Gods, which I don't think that's a Neil Gaiman. Um, is it Neil Gaiman?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, how could you write that and then put like this was almost like an afterthought. Like this
I
was
read American Gods, and that scene that Orlando Jones was in wasn't in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one reason. I think
well.
Orlando Jones. I think
Here's
they
the
gave
thing that
Orlando Jones some liberties and allowed him to kind of
eh,
like
well,
critique
it's
the script.
also that last scene where he was talking about the slaves and stuff. That also is the scene that got him fired from the show, because yeah, they thought it was too much, and especially at that time, you're talking about Black Lives Matter and all that, and when he went in on that show, and kudos to the showrunner and them to leave it in there, but yeah, they 86'd him pretty much for that scene.
They also got new
Um,
showrunners, like the initial showrunners of season one of American Gods left because of creative differences, and they got new showrunners. And I
yeah,
guess the new showrunners are like really problematic, so they didn't get return them on season three.
Yeah,
yeah,
because he had another power. He had another pivotal scene in season two, if I remember right.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then after that, he got the axe for
Hmm.
yeah. So
whatever the undisclosed reason was.
I don't know. I thought that was powerful, and I thought that I don't know if they were afraid of that kind of thing, but this seemed very much like an afterthought, and I now that Courtney said that, I like that even less.
I'm
Um,
Yeah,
wondering.
it
yeah.
I wonder if it's a different writer. Like, so do you feel like Neil Gaiman is better about those topics for like I know like he's a white guy and everything, but he's better about those topics than whenever they threw in some Wakanda color purple.
Well,
Wakanda.
here's the thing too. We know that he wrote the graphic novels, but turning the graphic novels into the script, I don't know that he was the main writer. I don't know who was in the
um
writers' room.
so there are several different writers, it looks like. A lot of them did one episode, one did two episodes. It's interesting. Actually know one of the writers. She did one episode, but none of them are of color.
Mm.
There's one guy who looks like he might be, he did 7 episodes, so his name is Cheech Manohar, so he could be someone of color, but no one black.
And I think maybe that wasn't the concern either, because all of these characters are British. Like, besides Brianna Cuoco, everyone else is British or whatever, including in real life, including uh Crystal. They're all British. So maybe that was a completely different it's kind of like writing for Doctor Who.
Nico
You
as
write
well.
for I don't know. I
Yeah.
think she was raised in Britain, but
Okay.
Yeah. I did while I did like the character of Nico, I did feel like she was kind of a stereotype. Um, sorry, that's her name,
I don't
Nico,
know. I
right?
wasn't mad at
Mm-hmm.
her manga collection. Like she had a killer collection. So
Like I like the Space Cadet vibes. It just felt very like tropey for me. Um,
I
but
could
I
see
did,
that though. I could
yeah,
see that.
I
Mm-hmm.
did,
But
I did like her like.
mess around, have her singing K-pop or some shit. Like
Oh, yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah.
Um, I would say like like going back to kind of like the ancestor moment, like, but not that moment specifically, but in comparison to like this is, Crystal's core is her ancestor moment, but for Edwin's core was his death moment and how
mm-hmm,
his death factored into who he was. So seeing
mm-hmm,
him in his hell loop, um and actually come in contact with the boy who was responsible for bringing him
mm-hmm,
into that seance, and that scene that they had together was so good because it was literally the boy acknowledging what he did was wrong, not
Mhm.
only acknowledging it, but then also coming to his own truth and realization that he liked him. He just didn't
Mhm.
know how to say it. Kind of like the same thing that Edwin was going through about not knowing how to acknowledge that he's having these feelings for other males.
Mhm.
That boy was going through the same thing and trying to prove himself to these other boys like to hide that. So for his origin story to then like give him the opportunity to forgive this boy and them have that moment that was such a powerful scene. And then you go to the crystal scene, which I know they thought probably was going to be so powerful, and it really wasn't. So
No.
upsetting.
It's a great value
like
Black Panther color
Yeah.
purple.
I-
Sorry.
Yeah.
I like the idea of getting your power from your ancestors, but the way they went about it has just been done. I mean, it's like I'm gonna need you to do something different. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Like the
especially
concept is cool, but don't do it that.
I mean, heck, even
that ain't it.
even this 90s animated Martin Luther King thing did something similar, so
but like the best version of ancestors, black females to a young quote unquote mystic character. Nobody does it better than friggin' Vampire Diaries with Bonnie Bennett and the ancestors coming back from like with Grand
Mhm.
Grant. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
oh my gosh.
Nobody
That
did
did
that
kill
better
it.
than all
Yeah.
her ancestors from back in the day. That scene still, I got chills just thinking about that scene again.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything that powerful, like from that storytelling's perspective that they wanted to achieve with this because it was rooted in something, not just people. That's like you walking into dinner late and it's past your curfew. That's what Crystal did. She walked in like, hey, girl, you want to get a black? No, that scene was rooted in Bonnie literally needed her ancestors to fuel her in order to do what needed to be done.
Mhm.
Like it was powerful.
Yeah, that
So
scene
like
with Bonnie, when I saw that, I felt like she was the Avatar. I said, "Oh
right,
shit!" I was
it
like, "Oh,
came through.
this is dope."
Yeah, you want to
Yeah,
rewatch the series? Then the Vampire Diaries. It is what
it's
it is. But it created its own universe in the sense of like that. With I'm off topic with
mhm.
Okay.
origins and whatnot. But that scene is one of the best scenes for a young African American witch. It was so inspiring for me because the
Okay.
character of
Mhm.
Bonnie is like the best character in the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah,
She's the best arc.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm putting that on the list. That's on the list.
Oh,
I want to see some hotness, so that's on the list.
yeah. Go
I,
ahead, Catherine.
I want to add something about like just a couple sequences they had that were animated. Kind of the callback to the witches. I'm so bad with names. The witches backstory. I thought it was cool that they had like an animated sequence. I know
Yeah.
that's been done before in the past, but
Mhm.
it's just nice.
Mhm.
It's a nice treat to see, and they went kind of with more of a Disney style, which
Oh
is cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just thought those were really cool callbacks to that, and even the walrus, and they went with more of like a
Yeah,
kind of
Oh
cutout ink print.
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was
That
almost
was kind
like
of cool.
yeah.
And here's something that I also learned in the course. I was watching something, and they said that story about the tragic Mick, the walrus,
Mm-hmm.
that is an actual lore of some country. Like that's an actual story. That's not just something that Neil Gaiman just came up out of his head and wrote for the the graphic novel or the show. That's an actual lore somewhere. I forget which country that goes with, but that's I remember someone said no, that's a real story. Like I grew up, you know, hearing that story as one of the stories, as one of the folklores of some country. I was
Well,
like, oh shit.
it ties into Lilith, right? And Lilith is a shared um, person of lore in a lot of different cultures, not just one different culture. So
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see, to dig a little bit deeper into her origin story. How did you all feel about her portrayal?
Mm,
Little
I don't know.
lackluster.
I
think
was,
that
I
it
was
was it was kind of like an afterthought. Like it was like cleanup on aisle 3. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we needed to tie this story up, but she didn't have the power that she should have had, especially given
How
everything
often she was
Esther
mentioned.
did. Well, it's
Mm.
who Esther was afraid of. the only person Esther was actually afraid of. So you're like the big bad's boogeyman. So I needed you to not just show up, knock on the door, and like drag her out. I needed you to get your due. Show me why she is the big bad's boogeyman, you know? And because she earned that moment. And I don't think she got nearly enough. So
well, I think one of the interesting things about what they did with Lilith is, the story on Lilith is, she was the first woman or whatever. I think she was actually the first person. I think she preceded Adam, whatever. But Adam and Lilith were highly incompatible. And Lilith had to go and like, hey, we're gonna make you another chick. Here, there's this chick named Eve, see if that works out. But Lilith is supposed to be, the mother to a lot of the creatures. She's supposed to be like the original vampire or what have you. So there's a lot of different things in lore about her.
Of Lilith,
yeah, there's a lot of different things in lore about Lilith. The problem with how they portray Lilith. So the first time we seen her, not when she was talking about, but the first time we see anything where they were doing tragic mixed story and it was animated, we saw Lilith. But then when she showed up in episode 8, the last episode, it was almost like, oh, we done already ran through the budget. Like, we got $1.97 left. Like, what can we pull together to, we just threw this in the script. What can we pull together to pull this off? And it seemed completely an afterthought. It seemed,
yeah, they spent too much time trying to electrocute Edwin when they did that once. Maybe do it a second time to just solidify that he's being tortured. Yeah. And then let's get to Lilith, Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I could have believed the whole thing about Edwin if he's off screen and we just hear him screaming or crying out or something. Like, I could have believed that. But I don't need to see the the mystic lights. Yeah, they put way too much. They put too much dip on that chip.
I felt that way about the snake. I was like, if you're not gonna really show us, and this is not the Jaws effect, then y'all need to do something else different. But then
I was like, I believe
it's probably like the budget constraints.
Yeah, I was like, I believe the basilisk in Harry Potter more than that. Like, that just, the snake was, and then Charles down there fighting with a damn cricket bat. I was like, what are we doing? Like,
I mean, at least it's supposed to be a special rugby bat, at least.
But they didn't explain that either.
They didn't. They didn't. I figured we were gonna, but then it got destroyed. So I don't know why. I guess we won't give it.
Yeah, he had a magic rugby bat. It got destroyed, and then he pulled out the sword, and I was just like, "What are we doing?"
He did pull out the sorting hat.
Hold on. I got one more thing before we leave. There's one more honorable mention from another character that I absolutely loved. Smallest amount of screen time in the whole series, but boy, did she ate. Yo, the notary. The notary that was given what's her name? The night nurse, giving the night nurse work. Don't come in here until you get your paperwork right. That snooty attitude that she had the entire time.
She shut it down.
Yeah, she was like, no, it ain't happening. Till you get
I need an exact location. Exact.
I love the notary. I was really hoping we would have seen more of the notary, but she was one and done.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get more of her next season. Just like, like Tamlin, what's her name? Who played
Tamita. Yeah.
Yeah, who played the night nurse's boss, who's like, Death's number 2.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that Death doesn't know these boys been out here running Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Death knows what's up. She also knows that she knows that they actually putting in work and doing some good stuff. So
yeah. Well,
I would love to see her catch up with them.
Yeah, because Despair wasn't a stranger to them. They're like, we've been knowing about y'all, but all right, I'll call on you again.
Mario brother one up. You can tell she was like, don't worry, I got you.
Exactly. Like, she was like, oh, that's pretty good. Look at this board. Look at that. I mean, all these little people you said you cleared out. I don't think you cleared anything out. I think they did.
Look at them over here doing your job.
Right. So I think that all together culminates why I, originally voted.
Well, I don't know, because I now that we've had this discussion, I guess there were a few more things that I kind of nitpicked about than I remembered. It was a little little while ago when I did watch this. So I guess really we want to say, do we want a season 2? Like, did it leave off now that he got rid of the curse, that kept him in Seattle or wherever he was in upstate, the Northwest United States from the Cat King? Do we want a season 2? Like, where do we see the story going after the peculiar way that it came to a climax at the end?
I want to know what happens to Nico.
I
Mhm.
want to know where she and the dandelion sprites are.
Yeah, is she another
Is she a dandelion sprite now? I want to
Yeah,
know.
because she's in like some weird igloo kind of thing.
And the same size.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
that's
and
cool.
not only that, because and I think Catherine brought it up early, talking about color palettes. The color palette for Nico at the right end, like
Northern Lights.
to me, what Northern Lights, but to me, her particular color palette inside that little igloo, I was like, is Nico, especially sitting with the sprites, I was like, is Nico getting ready to turn evil? Like, how could the most positive person in the entire damn show come back? She mess around, come back season 2 and be an antagonist. Like, I don't know.
I'm curious to know. First off, to answer your question, yes, absolutely, this deserves this was a very good series. But I want to know how bad Crystal got. I want to dig a little bit more into her past and see, what hell she was kicking up to the point that a demon was like, "I'm gonna kick it with you." So I want to figure that.
Okay. Well, I think I do want to see a season 2. I'm interested, especially with the night nurse now being on Team Dead Boy Detectives. And by the way, that's a stupid name. Like, I love the night nurse. She's great. So to see her as part of the team, I do want more out of Crystal. Yeah, I just think I don't know. I think of those people, I think that Edwin was the most interesting. Even though I like Charles, I think Edwin was the most interesting. His little, his curt, short self with everyone, like he's rude as shit. And I like it. Yeah, he's rude as hell, and I like it. He's very proper.
I definitely want a season 2. I think that all of the characters each brought something interesting to their team. And I want to see Jenny get in more action because now she's officially on the team. Now that she has experienced death and come back, now she can see them and, her Sweeney Todd, demon barber / butcher.
Oh
Like,
man.
wherever. Like I want more of that. And Nico want to know where she is. And I just think they have a really good solid team going. What other hijinks can, this Scooby-Doo crew get into? So
Yeah, that damn librarian. I was like, damn, poor Jenny. Poor Jenny. Oh girl, the date was going so good. And she's like,
oh my
yeah, and
God,
then
that was
in your
fantastic.
oversized nightshirt. She's like, wait, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
What the hell you just say?
Oh man.
Hold up.
I thought she was gonna haunt her as a ghost, but I guess she just went to hell. So
Yeah, they didn't really
Yes,
explain
yeah.
that she was just sitting there on the stairs, just kind of just weeping, and I was like,
That was her hell.
okay, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought,
Yeah, it's
I
great.
thought something more was gonna come out of that, but
same.
yeah.
Nah, because she knew she messed it up, and then and then went psychopath with it. No, let's just reset. Forget I even said it. No, we passed that point. No, you crazy as hell. All right, so I guess the only thing left to do is to re-rate this. Um, let's see. Let's go, Courtney. How you gonna re-rate this, ma'am?
I'm gonna stay as a binge out because the little things that, like, the rugby bat and the dumb snake, they didn't really bother me because there was so much more goodness that overwhelmed all of those couple little quirks, like those daggone dandelion sprites, the night nurse, just the relationships that were built and forged and I thought were solid from beginning to end. I enjoyed the journey and I binged it back to back to back. So for me to say I didn't hate watch it, I love watched it and I chose to continue on. So I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and I'm going to stay as a binge worthy.
Okay, let me go to you, Catherine.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna keep it at a full meal. I enjoyed it, had fun with it. It still didn't like really blow me away. I didn't love the sprites. I actually liked them in the one part, but I didn't love them throughout. They actually got on my nerves a little bit and felt too much like a comedic, just throwing in thing. Um, but I do want to see season two. I'm curious what happened at the end with Nico. Like, I really just want to know. Like, what is she now? Did the sprites get bigger? Are they all like normal human size or whatever? Are they in a different universe? As well as I'm curious if they're going to tie more Sandman elements. Will Dead Boys in the new upcoming season of Sandman be integrated? And how are they going to, I guess, marry those different tones? Because they're two very distinctive tones, so it's hard for me to kind of see Dead Boys and then Sandman's there. So.
Okay. Mr. Centel, Trey, what do you think?
Yeah, man, this is the big boy to Andre 3000, the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan, and the big ones in those examples is the Sandman. If Sandman never existed, to me, this is a binge worthy show. But because I can't pretend like I wasn't in the Sandman's universe, and this just isn't that. But that is, let me be clear, extra clear. This is a very good series. It is, and I would absolutely recommend. And I had a lot of fun. I just wish I would have met this first and then seen the Sandman, because then I would have really just fallen in love in the way that I really truly should have.
Okay. And I guess I will close it out. So and I'm taking it that you stayed at a full meal.
I'm staying at a full
Okay.
meal. Yeah.
I think I am going to, and at first I thought about there were far more quirks than I remembered, but I think kind of like Courtney, they didn't bother me enough. I wouldn't watch something like this. And the fact that I chose to watch this, stayed with it, enjoyed it, loved it, looking forward to a season two really says something to me. This is not my normal cup of tea at all. And to the point that you just made, Trey, I think I do understand your point about Sandman, but much like Star Trek, which I am a new Trekkie. I'm sorry. I think just like there are shows like Prodigies and Lower Decks, which are completely different from the main show, the main TV shows, the movies, but they give a different perspective. I enjoyed this for what it was, even though it's not Sandman. Sandman was damn near perfection. This is something different, but I enjoyed it for what it was. So I think I'm gonna stay at a binge out. So even everyone, since we stayed, we're still at a 4.5 for a this rounded up to a binge worthy full binge out, which is actually impressive. So I do want to give a shout out to our technical producer, Rodney, who does all the stuff behind the scenes. And usually Rodney is so busy. Rodney is a true rock star that makes so many of these shows come to life on the Geekish Network. And we really honestly couldn't do any of this without him. Just let him get sick and we couldn't do this without Rodney. And unfortunately, the thing about Rodney is so busy that we're doing all these shows and talking about all these great shows. It just becomes another show that Rodney writes down his list. And like, yeah, I gotta watch that. Rodney don't have time to watch a whole lot of these shows. Bless his heart, because I know he wants to participate, but he just doesn't get time to see all this stuff. So he does these shows. He's kind of away from his computer for a little, away from the keyboard for a little while we're talking. We also want to give a shout out to Digital Click, who, if you've seen any of our posts, our reels or anything where we are promoting the show, letting you guys know to come on, join us at at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern time. That is done by Digital Click. They are a wonderful marketing and digital graphics firm, and you should definitely use them for all your needs. We have wonderful, wonderful shows on the Geekish Network. It is the premier BIPOC destination on the web. So if you want to get your good blurred, your good geek news from people that look like you, we have people of color in front of and behind the cameras, writers, producers, we have two fantastic thespians on this show right here, and Courtney and Trey. Catherine is doing it big and in animation, and I'm just here to soak up all their magnificence. So please come back to all the shows that we have. Pod Squadron on Mondays, Geek Beasts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, BingeWorthy, and then also on Friday we have one of our newest shows, Trek Table, which Courtney is also one of the wonderful co-hosts from, and we're developing even more shows as we go along. Catherine, any parting words before we go?
All right. Happy Woden's Day, soon to be Thursday, and goodbye from Memphis.
Oh, okay. So, what's tight? And Trey, any parting words, sir?
Hell yeah, I got some parting words. I'll be damned, I'm gonna sit there and let you not let yourself shine. Yo, Noop from the Ville, stand up, Noop Nation. In case you don't know, this gentleman also has a YouTube channel as well, where he does these incredible deep dives into some of pop culture's greatest movies, television shows, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. I'm so proud of you, my guy. Talking about to everybody else. Boy, you better sit there and let us love on you, baby. Hey, you can hit him up at youtube.com/app Noop from the Ville. Please go check him out.
Thank you, sir. Just put my Cash App right here. Never mind. Miss Courtney Scott Wright, what parting words do you have, ma'am?
Let's see. I hope that sometime in the future we can stream a D&D game, Centel. If you could work that out for us. I've been asking the team to ask you, and now that you are here, I will ask you myself.
Hey,
so
let's
do that.
Hey, go to Pop to see that. Boy, let's get it going. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait. We have our own BIPOC Critical Role. We gonna,
right?
The hell with the Legend of Vox Machina. We getting ready to do it. We getting ready to do it our own style.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike. They're gonna be like, why your character look like Black Dynamite? I don't know. He's out here kicking ass and taking it to the man. I don't. All right. So I want to say, everyone, thank you for showing up. The one thing that you could do to help us, and especially help the growth of the Geekish Network, we are trying to grow. So please, you have liked, you have commented, but share this, subscribe, tell everyone. We'll see you next week, same time, same channel. Anybody know what we're covering next week? I would love to say that I know, but I can't even think of it right now.
Maybe Discovery? No.
Is it
no, it's not.
Blood of Zeus?
Oh yeah, Blood of Zeus.
It is Blood of
one is
Zeus.
Out, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, season 2 dropped. I did.
And that's the crazy thing. Once again, I blame you, Courtney. Well, I don't really blame you because it was wonderful, but
I mean, that's a hint of my score. I won't
you
say
said
it out
something
loud.
Yeah, you said something in the chat about Blood of Zeus, and I went immediately. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything right now. I went and binged the whole thing and finished it. So yeah, I'm done with it.
I'm about to do this.
Yo, I know we're getting into it next week, so this is my quick tease. I don't know if our audience remembers, we did cover Blood of Zeus season 1, and it didn't really hit. And I understand now there was a lot of world building that we were unaware of at the time. And now that I have watched season 2,
Yeah, now they into
Mind
it.
blown.
Now they are into it. Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have never lied.
I rewatched season 1 because I kind of forgot what happened.
I
And
might
then-
have to do that same thing and then watch it all again because
Yeah,
yeah.
watch
Yeah,
season 1, and then when the season 2 dropped, we just benched it all.
I'll say less. That
Yeah,
that-
it is that good. But of course, we're inviting everyone to
To
come
come
back
back.
next week as we do season 2 of Blood of Zeus. You can catch it right now on Netflix. Courtney, I'm gonna leave it to you because you do it so well. You know, your sign off, so you can do it, ma'am.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And good night. What do I say? Good luck and geek out.
Yes, there you go. See?
I
All
was
right.
like, what do I say? You know,
Yeah.
and to be fair, I got to give credit where credit's due. That was started by Miss Catherine.
Oh,
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't. Oh, okay, cool.
Look,
Sorry.
she's
Have a
like,
good
I don't
night.
even. She's like, did
Yep.
I say that? I need to trademark that. I don't even remember.
Oh man, cool. Yeah.
All right.
Right on.
We'll see y'all next week.